Already facing the natural pressures that come with trying to break one of sport's most notorious records, Hank Aaron and his family faced racist taunts and death threats throughout his entire quest that came to an emotional end. So let's look at how Hank Aaron rose above hate to become the home run king.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
Hank Aaron hit his 500th home run on July 14, 1968, and his chances to pass Babe Ruth's home run record was definitely in the realm of possibility. Aaron became the 8th member of the 500 home run club in his age 34 season, the same age that Babe Ruth was when he hit his 500th, along with Willie Mays. Mays and Ruth being the only members of the 600 home run club when Mays hit number 600 in 1969, but Aaron showed a little more consistency and durability than the two. Hank Aaron practically defined consistency at a high level. From the age of 21 to the age of 36, Aaron compiled a WAR of at least 6 in all but one of those 16 seasons, hitting less than 25 home runs just once, which was a season with just 145 games. And at the same time, he also hit more than 44 home runs in just one season in this time, winning just one MVP in 1957, which was the same year he won his only World Series. And after his 1971 season, it was more clear than ever that he had a better chance to break the record than anyone before. Going into that season, he was 56 home runs ahead of Mickey Mantle for third all-time, just Ruth and Mays ahead of him, with Mays still playing. But Mays had been declining as the 60s came to an end by his standards, being 3 years older than Aaron, while Aaron continued his consistency at the same age. In the first month of his age 37 season, he officially became the 3rd member of the 600 home run club, with his 8 home runs this season on April 27th, and he would proceed to have one of the best seasons of his career. That mainly lies in his 47 home runs, which would end up being a career high. And besides that, he recorded a 7.2 WAR, the highest slug, OPS, and OPS plus of his career, all in which he led the league in, finishing 1 home run behind Willie Stargell, who was also the only position player with a higher WAR. But Joe Torre took home MVP, and a time where a 363 average was pretty much an automatic win. And now he was 85 home runs away from tying Babe Ruth, and at the same time, he was just 7 home runs behind Willie Mays. Aaron averaged 36 home runs a year to that point, and if he kept that average, he would be the home run king within the next 3 years. And over the next 2 years, he would be average, which is way above the average player in their late 30s. He declined some in 72, a 3.3 drop in WAR, along with the 3rd lowest OPS of his career aside from his rookie season, and the lowest average of his entire career, along with the most strikeouts and the least amount of extra base hits. But he still hit 34 home runs and received MVP votes as he had in every season aside from his rookie year. And with Willie Mays hitting just 8 home runs, and what would be his second to last season, half spent with the Giants and the other half with the Mets, Aaron overtook him in the 2nd spot at 673 to finish the year, with Mays having no chance to catch him now, with 1973 ending up being his last season. But there was a development before the 72 season started that had an impact on that year and the entire saga. In a time of change in regards to player freedoms, 1972 brought the first player strike. It lasted the first 2 weeks of April, with Aaron missing 8 chances to grow his totals. He wasn't playing as much anyway, but that played a part in the reason he only played 120 games. In 1973 brought the first player lockout, but that would not impact the regular season, though spring training was delayed. And as we'll see later, the games lost to the 1972 strike proved to be more important to Aaron than expected. Going into the 73 season, just based on what he showed in 72, it did not seem likely that he would tie Ruth that year. But even a below-average year would put him in the 700 home run club with him. He constantly downplayed the chase to pass Ruth, but baseball fans and the media did not. And as the season went along, the excitement would only grow. Playing in his 23rd All-Star game, he was hitting .240 with a .915 OPS and 23 home runs, putting him 4 home runs away from 700 and on pace to break the record that year. And he continued right into the second half. 697 came on July 13th, 698 came on the 17th, 699 came on the 20th, and the next day, Aaron would hit a 1-1 pitch off Ken Brett for his 700th home run, a club in which many thought Babe Ruth would forever be the only member. And as he became the 2nd member of the club, the baseball world shifted all their attention towards Aaron, as his chances to break the record that year became very likely. Aaron continued to downplay the chase, much of that because he didn't really seek attention, a shy and humble player who reached the record slowly through constant above-average seasons. But perhaps Aaron's ability to keep things inward was important with the hate he would receive as he closed in on the record. Aaron was perhaps the most famous man in the country as he was closing in on 714, and that's reflected in the fact that by the end of the 1973 season, he received 930,000 pieces of mail, so much that he actually earned a plaque from the U.S. Postal Service for receiving more mail than anyone that was not a politician. And while a lot of letters were from fans wishing him well, estimates were made that 1/3 of the letters were hateful. Aaron had dealt with racism throughout his entire life, growing up in Alabama in the 1930s, and that continued into his career. 6 years after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in the majors, him, Horace Garner, and Felix Mantilla broke the color barrier in the Sally League, the baseball league of the Deep South. and they were warned by the mayor that they would receive taunts and they should suffer quietly. Fans threw rocks at them, wore mops on their heads to mock them, and they threw black cats on the field. Aaron said the players knew to ignore the hate, but they couldn't help but feel the weight of what they were doing. And when Aaron made it to the majors in 1954, despite the ruling on Brown versus the Board of Education, it would take a few years for the whites' only signs to come down. Aaron said it wasn't until 1961 that the Braves took down those signs, of course playing in Milwaukee at the time. But back in his time in the Sally League, he wrote on the season, "Little by little, one by one, the fans accepted us. Not all of them, but enough to make a difference. And we were part of the reason why." And as the Braves were set to move to Atlanta in 1966, Aaron originally told reporters that he didn't want the team to move, saying he felt many residents in the area were stuck in the past. Seen in the first game played by the Braves in Atlanta, when a message flashed on the scoreboard acknowledging the anniversary of the start of the Civil War, which reportedly got the biggest cheer of the night. Aaron's wife later saying she often heard racial slurs directed at him from the stands. Aaron would later write, "As a black player, I would be on trial in Atlanta, and I needed a decisive way to win over the white people before they thought of a reason to hate me. And while he won over many people, the hatred never left for some, especially as he grew closer to Babe Ruth. He received so many letters that he hired Carla Cohn to sort through nearly 1 million letters. Cohn becoming the first full-time secretary to be written to the contract of a major league player, and she put the letters in piles. One for the positive letters, one for fans who sent baseball cards for Aaron to sign, and the other for the hate mail. Aaron didn't read much of the mail, but he kept it as a dark reminder. Letters full of taunts, slurs, and death threats made against Aaron and his entire family, making his ability to stay focused all that more remarkable. And also the reason it would be best to break it as soon as possible. And it was close going down the stretch. He hit .710 on September 10th, then a week later, he hit .711, with 9 games left, of which he played 7. .712 came on September 22nd at the Astrodome, and over his next 2 games, he recorded just a single. But back home on the 29th, he would hit .713 against the Astros, and it led just one more game to at least tie the record. And again, he would record 3 hits. The problem being, none of these were home runs. A remarkable 40 home runs and 392 at-bats that season at the age of 39. But again, going back to the strike, you figure with an additional 8 games, he would have already at least tied Ruth. And not passing him then was the worst for his safety. He said after that final game, his only fear is that he might not live to see the 1974 season. That gave an entire offseason for more hate mail and threats to come in, some even directed at Aaron's secretary and journalists who supported him. The FBI was investigating several death threats and kidnapping plots made against his children, causing an armed guard to accompany Aaron as he had been throughout the season, with his children also getting police escorts to school. And with all the hatred, there was also tons of support. Braves fans gave him a 5-minute standing ovation after he came up short in his final game in 1973. A peanut strip was made in defense of Aaron, and Babe Ruth's widow Claire denounced the racism, saying that her husband would have enthusiastically cheered on Aaron in his attempts. And teammates and fellow players came to his defense as well, including Dusty Baker, who said, "We always felt the need to protect him. I think we were more afraid for him than he was actually afraid for himself, because he never showed any fear of the threats or whatever. It seems like it drove him to a higher concentration level than ever before." Aaron stayed strong throughout all of it, even turning down a request made by the FBI for him to skip a game due to a legitimate death threat during the 1973 season. And as the record carried into 1974, he was more determined than ever, saying, "Damn it all, I had to break the record. I had to do it for Jackie Robinson and my people and myself." But he ran into some controversy when he didn't plan on breaking the record as soon as he could. The 1974 season began in Cincinnati, and with management wanting him to break the record at home, they planned on having Aaron sit all 3 games. But Commissioner Bowie Kuhn ruled that he had to play at least 2 out of 3. And so, he played the first game, and always rising to the occasion, on the first pitch he saw, he hit it over the fence to officially tie Babe Ruth. The emotions of the moment got to him, as tears came to his eyes as he rounded third base. He wouldn't hit another home run that game, but afterwards, he called his mother and said he was saving the next one for her. And the next one wouldn't come in Cincinnati, as he went 0 for 3 in the other game he played, and that was preferred as that set up for Aaron to break the record at home, as the next 6 games were scheduled to be in Atlanta. And the first home game on April 8th nationally became a huge event. 54,000 made their way to Atlanta Stadium, which was an attendance record for the Braves. Among those in attendance being Sammy Davis Jr., Marion Maynard Jackson, and Jimmy Carter, the then governor of Georgia, who would of course later be the president. The game was also broadcast nationally on NBC, with people from all walks of life being interested. And his first at-bat came in the second, and he didn't lift the bat off his shoulders once, as he walked on 5 pitches. And he actually made history before the home run, as he scored on Dusty Baker's double, and that was run number 2063, passing Willie Mays for the National League record. The Dodgers took the lead in the third, but no one was really concerned. The four started with a Darrell Evans single, and up came Aaron to a rousing ovation. He took the first pitch from Al Downing, then at approximately 9:07 p.m., Aaron hit a drive to left, and though Bill Buckner tried to leap over the fence to catch it, he had no chance, as the game was then tied. But the home run record was no longer tied, as Hank Aaron had broke what was thought to be an unbreakable record, doing so amidst tons of scrutiny and real threats against his life. Aaron said he wanted to make sure he touched all the bases, with the first person to shake his hand being Davey Lopes. And when he passed second, two 17-year-olds got past security and got to Aaron. And given everything that happened before this moment, he was startled for good reason, along with the security in the stadium. But they just patted him on the back and went on the way to the police station. The fans were loud as ever, with cannons shooting off, and after his teammates were done mobbing him, it was his parents who made it onto the field. His mother hugged him very tight, and for a long time. Aaron later learning that the real reason was his mother was worried he might be shot, and she thought that no one would try to shoot him if she was hugging him. With everything he went through, it was reflected when he said during his address to the crowd, "I just thank God it's all over." Monte Irvin gave Aaron a diamond-studded wristwatch with 715 imprinted in gold. He was doing so on behalf of Bowie Kuhn, who did not attend the game, with a feud that grew between the Braves and him over the situation in Cincinnati. And that's the reason Irvin was booed. The boo was not directed at Irvin, but at Bowie Kuhn, something that made Aaron smile. The scoreboard flashed the message. George Herman Ruth also shares this great moment with all of us tonight by setting the standard to 714, which made the great chase possible. The game would be stopped for 11 minutes to honor Aaron, receiving thunderous applause throughout. And within a half hour of the home run, 60 congratulatory telegrams were sent to the stadium, with Richard Nixon calling soon after the home run. And as more messages came in, about half the stadium cleared out by the end. Them not being able to see the Braves pick up their second win of the season, with Aaron saying after the game he was most happy about the fact that the home run contributed to a win. As another small celebration took place after the game, using the champagne bottles brought from Cincinnati. Aaron would go on to hit 20 home runs that season, and he would go on to hit an additional 22 home runs, finishing his career where it started, in Milwaukee, of course playing for the Brewers instead of the Braves. And though he no longer holds a record, no home run chase could match the magnitude of Aaron's. Baseball being the biggest sport in the country in the time, and Aaron breaking the game's most notorious record, set by one of its most notorious players. Hank Aaron breaking a record thought to be unbreakable showed his greatness, but it also showed the dark side still found in the country. Despite the outpouring of support Aaron received, it was the hate that stuck with him the most, saying even long after he retired, he would scan crowds for possible threats, saying it also made him wonder if he could have hit even more home runs. But the home run and everything before it showed his resilience amidst his humbleness. A home run that meant much more past the record. Best described with what Vin Scully said over the microphone after he hit his home run. "What a marvelous moment for baseball. What a marvelous moment for Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What a marvelous moment for the country and the world. A black man is getting a standing ovation in the Deep South for breaking the record of an all-time baseball idol. And it is a great moment for all of us, and particularly for Henry Aaron." Hopefully you liked this video, and if so, please consider liking and subscribing for new videos every week. Thank you.